worked with a lot of female athletes and had the opportunity to get to know a lot of them, and it kind of with the social media thing, what really bothered me and kind of got me wanting to discuss the topic is I think they're using some of the athletes in a political way. And so whatever your opinion is your opinion, but I think you've got to be careful to start stating things as if they're facts. So when I speak to you tonight, I'm going to always say this is my opinion. So, and then I'm also going to have some factual stuff from the NCAA. And, in 40 years, I can tell you factually, there has never been a situation where I thought we were competing against a male athlete. It just never happened. And we have never had a player on our team that was a male athlete. And there's no coach in the country that wants women to compete against men. All right. No question. That's not what anybody wants. That being said, we want fairness to people that are transgenders or and still want to compete. So in 2022, the NCAA rule was pretty fair, in my opinion. And when it was last redone prior to now, and it was simply saying each sport was going to be guided by the Olympic sport if it was an Olympic sport. So everybody had to go with Olympic policy. And it was really hard to play if you weren't identified as a female at birth. So if you were identified as a male at birth, you could play, but you had to go through so many tests at various times before the season, mid-season, and then by postseason. So to tell you how that worked, in 2024, the last year it was allowed, we have over 500,000 female athletes in the NCAA, Division 1, 2, and 3. There were 10 identified transgenders that played, 10 out of 500,000. And the others that tried could not pass the test. And the tests were pretty strict. So it wasn't like they were allowing somebody that was, for lack of a better phrase, completely male step in and play against female athletes. And again, nobody wants that. Now, some of the fear came out where people were saying, well, there's 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds in high school. And I can't address what the policies are there, but I can tell you at the collegiate level, it just never was that much of an issue. And now in 2025, with the new rule, anybody that is a transgender or identifying as such, they can practice. So they're still allowed to practice with the women. They just cannot play in a competitive environment in terms of playing against outside competition, and definitely can't play in postseason. So, my whole thing from a political standpoint is that if you are against it, say you're against it, as far as any type of man competing against women, but don't use that as don't make us the political scapegoat and say that everybody, like everybody is playing against males every time they go out and compete, because it's just not true. And I guess from an empathy standpoint, and Chris, I empathize with you, and that's kind of why I reached out to you, because, there are a lot of people that have decided to become the opposite gender, and they aren't even involved in athletics. And so I think those people were probably taking some of the bad heat just because of what was going on with the Riley Gaineses of the world and some other people that were just coming out and saying, well, we're competing against, and it's unfair to women. And the other thing that I think is a little hypocritical, and again, I want to say again, nobody is promoting that 7 men come in and all of a sudden compete on the Central softball team or against it. But what's also hypocritical is a lot of these people that are speaking against it never really cared about women athletes until it was something that was favorable for them to speak out and help them maybe drive something politically and maybe help them win an election, because it was maybe one of the driving forces of some of the local and maybe even the presidential election. So, I want to know where they were at that time. We still have a lot of stuff going on where Title IX has helped a lot, but there's still sexual assault that is covered by Title IX that people don't seem to care about. They don't want to put funding into that, and who knows, we might lose that. There's still some inequality in terms of pay for women coaches versus male coaches. There are a whole lot of things that you can speak up for women's rights besides just